Hi, I'm William,
And I'm Kat,
and this is Info on the Go.
answering questions you want to know.
All right, Kat, so what are we talking about today?
Well, today we are talking about the history of television. How did we get from the radio, where everybody just sat around listening to their own stories on the radio, to the streaming services and high definition 4K TVs that we have today?
Hey, and guess what? Podcast is like sitting around the radio.
Yeah, it is kind of like sitting around the radio, isn't it?
Well, I love to listen to a podcast when I'm driving. I'm not, music today is just so, I don't know. I like to learn as I go, right?
Well, at this
Hey,
point, you should learn something new every day.
absolutely, which is why you should tune in to Info on the Go. All right, I'll let you kick it off.
All right. Let's see. So it's incredible to think about. Let's rewind to the late 19th century where the seeds of television were first planted. Scientists were experimenting with selenium cells and the photoelectric effect, laying the groundwork for future innovations.
Then in 1884, a German inventor named Paul Newpok. um,
Nipkow?
Oh, yeah, you know what? German Nipkow sounds a lot better than Nippo. Nipkow patented the Nipkow disc. It was a mechanical spinning disc that could scan images and transmit them in an essential step toward mechanical television.
Fast forward a little bit to the 1920s, and pioneers like John Logie Baird took center stage. In 1925, he successfully transmitted grayscale images of simple objects. By 1926, he demonstrated the first television system to transmit live moving images of people. I
I,
guess here we should explain what a mechanical television system is.
and look, I wrote this part of the mechanical television. I'm gonna just tell you like this: if you have time, if you're not driving, don't do it while you're driving. But when you have time to sit down and actually Google a mechanical television, please do so because my uh, description is it, I'm going to do the very best I can, and I'll kind of read through this. Mechanical TV uses rotating disc at the transmitter and receiver. These discs have holes in them, spaced around the disc, with each hole slightly lower than the other. The camera is located total in a totally dark room. A very bright light is placed behind the disc. The disc is turned by a motor, so it makes a revolution every frame on the TV picture. In the Bird standard, for instance, the disc has 30 holes and is rotated 12.5 times per second, which is still a lot, right?
That's still pretty fast.
Yeah. A lens in front of the disc focuses on the light on the subject being televised. You want to take on the next paragraph?
As the light hits the subject, it reflects into the photoelectric cell, which converts the light energy into electrical impulses. Dark areas of the subject reflect very little light, and only a small amount of electrical energy is produced, while bright areas of the subject reflect more light, and therefore more electrical energy is produced.
The
The electrical
elect Oh, you go ahead. You take it on, Cat.
the electrical impulses are amplified and transmitted over the air to the receiver, which also has a disc turned by a motor, which turns at exactly the same speed as the one at the camera. There are several methods of synchronizing the motors. A, a radio receiver picks up the video transmissions and connects to a neon lamp, which is placed behind the disc. As the disc rotates, the neon lamp puts out light in proportion to the electrical signal it is getting from the receiver. For dark areas, very little light is put out. For bright areas, more light is put out. The image is viewed on the other side of the disc, usually through a magnifying lens. There are other methods of producing pictures using mechanical means, such as the mirror screw, mirror drum, and lens disc. The
Wow. That is a mechanical TV has a lot of moving parts, right?
A lot of moving parts. The best description I could probably give would be if you guys have ever seen the animated movie Tarzan,
The
and when Jane,
viewfinder,
huh?
the little red thing with the little click on it. Oh my gosh, I know
Like
I
that.
am
Yeah.
way old.
Well, yeah, the viewfinder is one of them, but it was more of it was like children's toys for me. But it's similar to that for sure. Similar to that. But it would move automatically and just show rapid pictures. But there is a scene in the movie Tarzan where Jane is teaching Tarzan about people, and they have um, kind of like a projector screen where it has different pictures, and it's similar to that.
Okay. Okay. In the United States, Charles Francis Jenkins was also making strides in mechanical television. But these systems had limitations, low image quality, and mechanical uses that would break down over time.
The true game changer came with the electronic television in 1927. Philo Farnsworth, just 21 years old, developed the image dissector camera tube, the first working electronic television system. No more moving parts, just electronic scanning to capture images. Fun fact about Philo Farnsworth, he did indeed help create the television, but he did not have one in his home. He um he said that there was nothing worth watching on TV and it was a waste of time.
That that is interesting. There's well, back in the day, there probably wasn't a whole lot on TV, right?
Probably not. Probably
Yeah.
just stories.
And can you imagine how big those mechanical TV boxes would have been? Like
No, I can imagine
i-
how heavy those were.
in the 70s, we had floor model TVs that would take 4 or 5 people to pick up. I can
Mm,
only imagine what a mechanical TV would take
right.
because there's a lot of moving parts.
Oof.
Um, let's not forget Vladimir Zorkin of
Uh,
RCA.
yeah.
Okay. Who invented the ionic scope
I
and go ahead.
it's the who invented the iconoscope.
Iconoscope. What did I say? Ionic scope. Iconoscope. And later invented the kinescope. His work significantly improved image quality and set the stage for television's mass adoption.
The 1930s were a pivotal decade. In 1936, the BBC launched the world's first regular high definition television service in London. Then at the 1939 New York World's Fair, RCA introduced electronic television to the American public.
So, what is an electronic TV, right? The picture is discreted by a simple
Ooh,
television.
dissected,
What is it?
dissected.
Is that dissected? Oh my gosh. All right, I got my glasses on, right? Right. The picture is dissected by a simple television camera into a series of lines of electricity.
Line,
The li I mean
line.
lines of electricity. The lines are transmitted so the lines are transmitted so quickly that the eye would merge the lines. Then a cathode ray tube television receiver would change these lines back into a picture. Initially, the television was available only in black and white.
So the key takeaways thus far is the mechanical TV relies on mechanical components like spinning discs or mirrors for scanning and reproducing images. The electronic TV uses electronic components such as a cathode ray tubes or CRTs and camera tubes for scanning, transmission, and display.
Image
The
quality. I'll take that one. Mechanical TVs had low resolution, typically 30 to 60 lines per frame, blurry, rudimentary images. Electrical TV had high resolution, capable of 100 to thousands of lines per frame, much sharper and more detailed. Think about that, hundreds to thousands versus
right,
30 to 60.
right. We're talking like stick figures to, a whole house.
And I don't think we mentioned either. Electric TVs were more adaptable for later inventions of color and sound too, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know how a mechanical TV would have color or sound.
Sound.
It sounds dangerous.
Absolutely.
The reliability and efficiency. Mechanical TV was prone to issues like poor synchronization, mechanical wear, and low durability. The electrical TV was more reliable and efficient with no moving parts in the image scanning and display process.
Size and design. Mechanical TVs were bulky, complex due to the need for large rotating components. Electrical TVs, more compact, streamlined, allowing for greater range of screen sizes and shapes.
I don't know how they
However,
bulky,
oh, go ahead.
but I said I don't know how mechanical TVs were any more bulky than the first versions of electronic TV. But
I mean, they had to be massive.
they really did, though.
Yeah,
I
they
couldn't
had
even.
to be massive.
All right.
Um, so World War II would put a pause on the development of electrical televisions, but post war, televisions exploded for the golden age. The 40s and 50s saw the big um, beginnings of household staples. Families gathered around to watch shows like I Love Lucy, The Twilight Zone, and The Twilight Zone was like the big deal. Have you ever watched any of the old episodes of The Twilight Zone, Kat?
Know that I have watched The Twilight Zone, but I guess I didn't realize how old they were.
Yeah, and I Love Lucy was a big show. I think the
I think
chocolate factory is probably one of the things that people can remember when the chocolates come off and her and Ethel are trying to gather them all up. They're sticking them in their mouth.
yes, I have seen bits and pieces of I Love Lucy on like Facebook Reels and stuff like that. And so that's something I do want to watch that. I want to sit down and watch all of it one day. I just have to figure out where it's streaming on now. Anyway, color television debuted in 1953 with the NTSC standard, but high cost meant it didn't become widespread until the 1960s. Still, it was a significant leap forward.
The 1960s saw televisions go global. Remember Telestar 1 in 1962? It was the first active communication satellite making transatlantic broadcast possible.
And of course, the 1969 moon landing. An estimated 600 million people watched Neil Armstrong take his first steps on the moon, a unifying moment made possible by television.
The 1970s brought the home entertainment revolution. Cable TV expanded our channel choices, and niche networks like HBO emerged. The invention of the VCR and remote control gave viewers more control than ever. We should definitely do one on Betamax versus VCR.
Yes, yes.
And I can remember, when it's talking about cable TV, uh, MTV was like the man when I was a kid, MTV was like the thing. It was what everybody watched.
Huh.
No?
I know it was still a big thing when I was a kid, but I didn't really watch that much TV. I wasn't allowed to watch that much TV, to be fair. Um,
Well, we didn't get to watch a lot of TV. Like I said, I grew up on a farm, and we outdoors very rarely in front of the TV.
yeah, no, I mean we had some what if we went to go see it in theaters, we usually ended up with those VCRs or DVDs. Um,
Blockbuster.
but now I remember going to Blockbuster out movies and find the little toys they'd have at the little like their little Easter eggs inside the store. And they had their carpets were all fun colored and everything. I remember Blockbusters now. I had some good times in a Blockbuster.
Well, we should definitely do one on how Blockbusters, how that took the whole thing and then brought back to Netflix. Like it's a huge deal,
Yes, like
right?
Blockbuster versus Netflix.
Yeah.
That would be great. So the 1980s saw the rise of specialized channels. CNN introduced 24-hour news, while MTV changed music and pop culture forever.
Okay, so maybe the 80s brought along MTV. Maybe I was a little ahead of myself. Technology kept advancing. The 1990s introduced digital broadcasting and HD TV. Flat screen TVs began replacing bulky models, and the internet started merging with television, which is where we're at today, right?
For the most part. Then came the 2000s, and the game changed completely with streaming. Netflix shifted from mailing DVDs to online streaming in 2007. And I remember let's see, I would have been 10, even in, they were still mailing DVDs out after that time. Um, but primarily they did start streaming too. It's just whatever they didn't have on their streaming services, you could order the DVD and they'd mail it to you and you could
Or
mail it.
or if you didn't have like back then, Wi-Fi or home internet wasn't really that prominent. And
Right.
I can remember still having dial-up services around that time, and that was unreliable. And there's no mistaking that noise, right? Dur,
There,
dur, dur,
God,
dur.
every you say dial up and I hear it in my brain. And then
Uh,
I and Um, I remember my mom playing games or doing something on the computer, and my grandma would call or something like that and crash the whole thing.
You would have to cut it all off. That was just about to bring that back. You can forget about answering the phone when you had dial up.
Forget about it. I mean, even if they dial in and you almost have no choice but to answer it because you're so damn mad it just crashed everything.
No, right?
What do you want? Why are
Uh,
you calling?
by the way, we're gonna do an episode. We're definitely gonna do an episodes on telephones for sure.
We have no choice now.
Absolutely. The 2010s were all about cord cutting and streaming services galore. Hulu, Amazon, Prime Video, Disney, original content from these platforms became the new norm.
Today, we're in the era of on demand everything. Smart TVs, streaming devices, and personalized algorithms have transformed how we consume media.
It is fascinating how TV has only reflected society, but also shaped it, right? From unifying global events to introducing us to diverse cultures and ideas.
For sure. Well, and it's also different because here in the US, we are able to watch pretty much anything that they come out with, whereas in other countries, they're so censored they can only watch certain things.
Yes,
And so we're able to learn a lot about different cultures and stuff like that, whereas other countries are not at all. And so I think that's the crazy part here, too.
true. And I think with things like there's some things that we here in the US take advantage of, or in freedom of speech countries, being able to get into Facebook and looking at YouTube or whatever we want to look at. Some of those platforms are restricted to certain individuals. One in that I can think of, North Korea for sure, right? Uh,
Yes. Yes. And I read a book in high school. It was Myanmar, but I don't think it's called that anymore. Burma, something
Burma.
like I, it's the same country, but I can't remember which name it goes by at the moment. Hold on.
Well, so
Yeah,
well, go
Myanmar
ahead.
is what it
Then
goes by now. It's
Mar.
an Asian country next to Thailand, but they're a lot like that too. Very, very censored.
Yeah. And I know there's other regimes out there. There's, like I just can't think of any right now.
Yeah, no, that's it's not just them. It's not just a couple of countries.
Yeah, it's pretty widespread. I think freedom of speech, I know here we have it in the US. I know that Britain has it. I know that there's other countries that have it too, Canada. But there's a lot of countries out there that are censored from what their governments allow their people to watch.
Hmm.
Kat, before we sign off, did you know that the first ever TV commercial aired on July 1st, 1941? It was a 10-second Bulva advertisement for the cost of $9.
You're telling me a watch?
Bulva. Is that the
Night?
Bulova watch?
Yeah,
Yes.
full of a watch.
Oh my.
The very first commercial was for watches. You better
Yes.
be time. Okay.
$9.
$9. In 1941, though, that still had to be a lot.
You know what? You read on and I'm gonna see what 1941 dollars were, okay?
All right. So that's incredible. And now companies spend millions for a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl. Times have changed.
I had to edit that out because I had you on mute.
I
Uh,
and I was like, wait a minute, what happened?
$9 in 1941 money was worth is about 200 bucks. There's no way you could get a 10-second commercial today for 200 bucks.
Hell no.
Not unless you're doing some late night TV sketchy stuff. Do you remember those?
Oh God. You wake up
Infomercials, I think was what they were
summer
called.
was Extends was one of them. Even Viagra was on the late night commercials too. Oof.
No. what was that? Oh man, the hair growth for men.
Oh yes.
What was that called?
Oh
The
God.
hair
What
club for men.
hair club?
Oh man, there's going to be some listener out there banging their head up against the wall going, "You guys, you're missing the."
When
Oh my gosh. I'm not just a president. I'm also a member. Hey, look, so that is it for this episode of Info on the Go. Please follow us wherever you get your podcast from. Leave us a review.
subscribe, I don't know, wherever you're listening, shoot us something. Tell us that you're listening, what more you want to hear, what more we could work on, all that good stuff.
Hey, and I'll even let Kat read it so I don't mess it up.
Well, I'll do my best. I mean, I'm not perfect now. I'm not perfect.
No. So with that being said, that is going to be the end of Info on the Go. Remember, we're on Facebook. Leave us a review wherever you get your podcast from. We'll definitely try to take time and read it. With that being said, thank you for listening.
Okay.